I'm Captain Clay Hornsby.
Can I fix you some tea?
No, your other port side!
Captain Blankley hasn't had a drop of tea since the party of 73. Captain, come in. You poor soul shouldn't have tried to come to the colonies today.
You are a traitor.
Take the captain to my quarters. I thought you said you would get them back in order. We're not about to get friendly just because we're about to die on this godforsaken island. You mistake me as some kind of pirate.
We are now pirates.
Race it, Jolly Roger!
Drop the jibs! Hoist up the weapons to deck! Prepare for battle!
Get her and let's release her to freedom. Landlubbers.
Their hull is taking on water and won't likely be afloat for another couple hours.
I miss home.
My poor misguided boy. Come, talk with me.
History will be written, and you will be known as the tyrants.
I would kill to be an admiral. I feel like I'm about to crack Jenny's teacup with this wooden mermaid.
Found it!
That has to be the crew delight.
Man your stations!
Where did you say the bounty was?
We're merely a vessel of war.
Dying without my name being remembered would have to be my greatest fear.
So we just got finished recording Captain Fearless, and I actually have the Captain Fearless, or the Captain Hornsby in this case. So, Captain Hornsby, how's it going, Mia?
Hello, I am the man, the myth, the legend, Captain Hornsby, but I don't sound like Captain Hornsby because I'm the voice of Captain Hornsby. I am Angelo Cruz. Thanks for having me on, John.
It is an absolute delight. Man, when I first heard your voice on the audition, it was gold. I'm like, I have to have that guy. And then as soon as I heard you do the episode for the last episode, so DEN, Denver International, I knew I had to get you on here and be one of my interviewees. I'm so glad. So I want to go over a couple things, but let's just go ahead and jump right into it. Tell me about your acting history. Like, do you have any history of acting, or is this your first go-round, or what's going on?
You know, as we briefly discussed before, I listened to Paige Elena's interview, and, you know, she was saying how she'd gotten, like, an acting degree, and she had, you know, had a history of acting, and then I'm like, wow, how can I can't top that. I had just started just acting in general this past year in July, just voice acting and just acting. Like, the only extent of acting that I've had was running the spotlight for a musical that my girlfriend at the time was in. So I've had little to no acting experience before, but I think as far as voice acting, I've always had like an interest in that. I think it goes back to when I first watched, I think it was Batman Beyond: Return of the Joker. And I was like a wee lad, and this is after I'd finished Star Wars, and I'm like, wow, that was great. And then I look at the credits and I see Mark Hamill as the Joker. And I'm like, wait a second, like that Mark Hamill? So I looked it up, and I was like, whoa, this guy can also be this guy? And that like blew my mind. So from there, like the world of voice acting just fascinated me, just seeing, you know, these people that don't look like the characters, but they can play them and feel them so well that it's just as realistic as an on-screen portrayal. So being able to do that and is like, it's just a really cool job.
It really, really is. So you mentioned Mark Hamill. We
Yes.
talked about Mark Hamill on the last interview.
That's right.
But you know, if you're talking about people who look or don't look like who they're portraying, you know, H. John Benjamin for
Yes.
the guy who plays
Yeah.
Archer, Bob's Burgers. That guy is nuts. He has great voice, but he looks nothing like any of the characters he ever portrays.
Oh no, he doesn't. Like when you see Archer, you know, you're like, wow, this is handsome guy, and then you look at him and he's just like some fat chubby, or some chubby bald dude. And you're like, whoa. No, I love it.
That's going on the floor.
No, I love H. John Benjamin. Come on, it's out of love. I say that like I know the guy. Like, oh, me and John, we go way back.
Yeah. You know, I heard an interview with him, and he actually he did a comparison between the role of Archer and the role of Bob. Mm-hmm. And it was crazy because it's like, yeah, it's the same voice. It's the same actor, obviously. But it sounds like the same voice. But then he did a portrayal of Archer, and then he did a portrayal of Bob. And it's like, he had all these hesitations and everything with Bob, and it's like an unsure...
Yeah,
he's not charismatic by any means, but then he did Archer, and Archer has like all the authority, and he's just like, talking, and it's so crazy to watch one person who can have essentially the same voice do two entirely different characters.
Yeah, it's really crazy because I think that's the latter half of voice acting, the acting portion, which was really what held me back from wanting to voice act, because I'm like, yeah, you know, like I do impressions with my friends or whatever just for laughs and giggles. Oh, I'm sorry, can I curse?
It'll be edited out.
Okay, for giggles. And
it'll be a clown horn.
Yeah, but you know, I wasn't sure if I could actually act because I had never acted before. Like, I don't have a theater background or anything, so just in the year or month of July, the year of our Lord 2020, I just decided to go for it because I was actually introduced to Casting Call from a friend of mine who he's a huge Star Wars nerd. Like, he's pretty much like my brother for all intents and purposes, so I just call him my brother. But we had actually managed a project that which I'll get to later a little bit. And we used Casting Call to get all of the actors, and we found some serious talent on there. Just an amazing group of people to work with. After a while, I'd had Casting Call for about a year, a really long time before I actually started to use it. And in July, my friend called me up. He's like, hey, there's this role I think you might be good for. Maybe you can audition for it. Here's the Casting Call page. I was like, oh, okay, cool. I'll check it out. I didn't end up getting that role, but I looked more and more to see what projects there were, and it's a mix between some original stuff, mainly fan stuff, but there was one that caught my eye, which is Blue Star Kingdom, and I auditioned for the Duke, which I did get, and it was like this original like space drama type of thing. And of course, looking back, I'm not sure if it's released yet. I don't know the status of it, but I hope it doesn't get released because the audio is really bad, and like there's a bunch of mic popping, and you hear me go like, oh, hello there. I sound like Bane talking through the mask and stuff. So like that was my first experience, but I think the one that really got me was I got the role for the Hobgoblin for a fan Spider-Man audio drama podcast. And that was like a really big deal to me because it was like a series-long endeavor. It was like 8 episodes. We've only done the first one, but the second episode's released, and they're working on the third one. So I'm really glad to have gotten that role because it had me realize that, oh, people do like my voice.
Yeah, you know, when we were doing the episode DEN, I because we do have this as a visual medium as well, I can see the actors talking. And I watched Leo when you were talking. I don't know if you noticed this, but when you were doing your first lines as Morris, his eyes were huge. He was like, what? This is coming out of who? And then to find out that it wasn't just that you were doing it, it's not your natural voice, but it's like you're not manipulating it using technology. You're not changing it with the computer or anything. Right. It's just, this is who you are. And then, you know, when you were doing the Morgan Freeman impersonation and you're doing all these other impersonations, it's like I am dumbfounded by how you have that range, that ability. And here I am thinking, oh yeah, I can do like Mickey Mouse, I could do like Goofy, I could do other voices that are just ridiculous, but I don't have that kind of like depth. And I always wanted to be that guy who's in a world
this summer. Yeah, like that.
Just,
Yeah.
I have this, like, the nicest hatred that I can have towards somebody towards you. Because, you know, I envy what you have to offer. You've now done the Spider-Man one. Were there any other projects before you got involved with Mercury Theater Podcast, or was there more?
Yeah, there were a few. I can't remember specifics, but I had gotten cast for Batman a few times, Joker a few times, and there was
As the Joker.
Yeah, he's.
I'm
really
so interested. I'm interested to hear like a Joker
a
impersonation.
Joker
Like,
voice.
I know it's the worst.
Dance
to get
monkey
somebody
dance.
on,
Yeah. No. Now I go for like the Mark Hamill-esque because that's the one that I grew up with.
Well, that's the one to go for.
Yeah, of course. Like if you want,
you
want a voice.
If you can, yeah, you pull off the Mark Hamill Joker. That's
all right.
dynamite.
Do I really look like a guy with a plan? You know what I am? I'm a dog chasing cars. I wouldn't know what to do with one if I just caught it. You know, I just do things.
That is interesting. So it's like, it has more depth to it, and I thought that, you know, the immediate thought that I have when Joker comes to mind is kind of more of a higher pitch, but everybody's rendition is different. Like if you watch the Joaquin Phoenix version of the Joker versus watching the Joker from
Dark Knight.
From the Dark Knight, you watch Heath Ledger's version of it. It's just, they're entirely different characters, but they're still the same character somehow or another, like in the world. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. So not traditionally trained, but you do have history now with projects per se.
Yeah, a small history. It's mostly fan stuff, but you know, I did a game recently that was interesting.
Like a video game?
It's like a visual novel. So, are you familiar with visual novels?
For our listeners at least.
Yeah. So it's like you know, like they'll have the characters on screen with dialogue, like the dialogue boxes at the bottom, and it's meant more to be experienced rather than directly played. So I'm not sure what to compare it to, but I guess the easiest is like maybe Doki Doki.
It's like fan dub stuff.
No, it's like, I don't know how to describe it. Like there will be characters, just like art of characters, and it'll be like this box at the bottom with the character name and then text, and then obviously it'll like read that, pretty much voicing an animatic almost, but the player, quote unquote, is indirect of the pace of that animatic.
Okay,
I guess is the best way to describe it. So like if I were,
you'll have to send me a link to something, and then I'll add it to the show notes so that anybody who's confused like myself can just watch that.
Well, the game hasn't been released or anything yet, so yeah, but
it could be something similar. But we'll go on. So tell me, do you have any skills outside of obviously your golden voice?
My silky smooth voice. No, so actually yes, because voice acting, no matter how much I do it, I still consider it a hobby. Like I'm not sure if I would want to, like it would be fun to make it a career, but my main goal is art. I do sequential art, which is art for comics, storyboards, stuff like that, which I'm currently going to college for. And to kind of bring it back to earlier, with the project that we were doing for Cast and Call was going to be an animatic with this sort of dream project of mine. It was called The Raiders of Arizona. It's like a post-apocalyptic type of thing. But, you know, I just got too busy with school and other stuff, and I just wasn't able to continue it, or at least bring it to the standard that I would have liked to. Plus, we hired the voice actors first, which I realized I should have never done. It should usually be like the last things that I do for a project like this, but I figured I want these characters to have voices. That ended up not coming to fruition. It's not that it's gone or anything. It's just I don't have time for it now. I care about it too much to let it go.
Yeah, it becomes a passion project.
Yeah, it's definitely a passion project.
Yeah. So you actually do the drawing yourself, or?
Yeah, I did the character designs. I was going to do some of the animatic portions. I had started learning animation programs like OpenTunes, Adobe. It used to be Flash, but now it's Adobe Animate. So I was learning those a little bit, and it took me forever to not like animating. The animating was the easy part, but learning the program, making sure it didn't crash every 5 minutes, trying to have it so that the cursor that I was drawing with was matching up with the speed of the screen. It was just so much stuff that I'm like, yeah, I might want to have someone else do this because I just can't right now.
Yeah.
But so trying to get that little thing out took so much effort, and I'm just like, I just don't have time for this right now.
So what you're saying is you're volunteering to make my cover art for the podcast.
So anyway, yeah,
That was real smooth. From here out, do you have aspirations of sticking with that the animation process?
Definitely.
So would you be doing comic books, or what's the expectation?
I would ideally bring back that project in some form. I would like to work for Image Comics. The thing about Image Comics is that all of the rights for the characters belong to the creator. So I think it's like a joint rights or something like that, where part of the company owns it, but you also own it as well. So, you can do whatever, pretty much.
So it's not like
characters. You're not signing your soul away, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Like Spider-Man was immediately lost to the Marvel comic.
Exactly.
I'm gonna lose some people if they find out that it's DC Comics. Like, hey, you should know this. I don't know. But is it also like storyboard stuff for movies and such?
Yeah. Storyboarding. So, like the sketch of animation, the basis that the animators have to work off of, which a lot of times when you're bringing in an animated project or those are often the ones that need to be in it for sure. You can't just have a blank thing with some in-betweens with nothing going on. You need to have something always going on in an animated proof of concept. So those storyboards kind of take that place.
Yeah. So we were talking about your aspirations earlier, and you mentioned that there was something that you wanted to speak about specifically. So what is this?
Yeah, so I have some past experiences with some not so great, some good ones, some really good ones, and then some not so great projects. And it's just been half a year since I had started. So I kind of got like a range of what to expect. I don't expect if I make this a career, I'll experience this in the industry or anything, but I'm prepared for the worst. So there was one where it was for a project where there was a lot of lines. I was the main character. The only upside was that I didn't really have to change my voice because it called for a very gentle, caring person. But I mean, my voice is like mid to low, so that's a little hard for me. I'm pretty much typecasted at this point, but but the point is, this role broke that typecast. So I was doing lines like this, and it was a lot of like paragraphs upon paragraphs, and it was like every other day. Hey, I changed the script to do this thing, but the way that they worded it was like, hey, you actually read this before I edited it, and I'm like that's my fault. like you couldn't wait and then say, actually, don't read this yet. I'm going to change it or something like that to have the script ready for me to read it.
Yeah.
So it was just boggling that they didn't have that ready for me to read. And that happened multiple times. And I'm sure I'm not the only one.
Yeah. So
You know?
how many of your projects, I guess by ratio, are they on a visual medium like we are on Discord? Or are they all just audio? Like what?
0. Well, actually, how do you mean like visual? Do you mean like animation?
So the
or do
way
you
that
mean...
we have it set up for Mercury Theater Podcast is that whenever we're doing the record, we get the majority of our actors in the Discord channel so we can watch each other and we can play off of each other's mentalities. And I feel like a lot of people are only getting the record, like they're only getting their script and they're reading their script, whereas we're bouncing off of each other's attitudes. So are there any others that you've been using that have this method?
You know, now that you mention it, I think you're the only director to incorporate this kind of reading. And that is a fantastic... John, let me just take a second to say you are the best director that I've worked with. And that is no exaggeration. You are the best director that I've worked with.
Oh my god. Like blushing over here.
yeah, because like, you know, when we're reading our lines, you know what works and you know what doesn't work, and you'll say, oh, just take this part out or read it like this. That's what they need in a director. But there are other directors that don't do that I've had. Yeah. So there was this other guy that pretty recently. So I had auditioned on Casting Call, which Casting Call, it seems right now, it is my only way of getting into the voice acting world. So I can't take it for granted, but there was a casting call where someone had commented. There's that little red notification bell that just gets me all giddy every time I see it. So I click on it, and they say, hey, you audition for Nightwing, contact me on Discord. So, okay, awesome. So I contact them on Discord, and they're like, hey, so we're going to be doing a call, and we want you to be there. I'm like, cool, was it casted? And they were like, all right, see you tomorrow. So we were sitting in the call, and it was about 5 minutes past, and it was about 7 to 10 of us in this call. And he wasn't there yet, the director. So we were like, it was an English gentleman was like, you know, here in university, if the teacher doesn't come into the first 15 minutes of class, we're legally allowed to leave. So we were like, okay, all right, bet. So 15 minutes goes by, and he's like, all right, maybe he's just running late. 30 minutes goes by, an hour goes by, and we hear nothing about this guy. So we're like, okay, screw this. We're not putting up with this. And 3 hours later, I'd left the call after that hour. Those 3 hours later, he messages us, and he's like, hey, sorry, caught up with stuff. So I was like, okay. So I'm gonna be nice here, and I'm just gonna say that it was not okay for you to leave us in that call. If you are going to have a call with all of your voice actors, getting all these people who are not even cast yet, by the way, to do these lines for you, you need to be sure that you're gonna make it on time. So he's like, yeah, look, I'm sorry, I messed up. And now they're actually, with his mod team, is finding a new way to organize and get things out, which is good. But it was really bad how they handled that situation. So that was a very recent one.
I definitely tried to contact everybody periodically and be like, okay, so remember, in a week from now, we have the record date. Okay, in 2 days, we have the record date. An hour beforehand, I'm like, we still have the record that's happening. And it's
you're very good with
I try to make sure, because, you know, nothing's worse than a flake. And, you know, it's, you know, we actually experienced an opportunity for me to recast somebody because they just flaked like 30 minutes before the record happened. And I'm like, well, I have to replace this person on such short notice. Like it's just like
that's a clap for that for the curse.
I'm listening to my records once they're happening. I like the process that I've established, but I have no experience actually having done it with anybody else, like under anybody else. So I'm not too familiar with if I'm doing stuff too early, too late, or if I'm doing anything that, everybody else knows to do. Like maybe the scripts should be going out more than 24 hours ahead of time, but I like to give it 24 hours ahead of time because, one, that gives me more time to write it, because honestly, I was still writing after I sent you guys the script. It's fresh on somebody's mind when they're reading it for the, within 24 hours.
Yeah.
So it changes things.
And if I can kind of interject with my directing experience, which was with just that one project. See, you, John, kind of have like with the exception of the amazing Georgina, you have a pretty local, with time zones or whatever, it's not like a huge issue. When I was directing, that was one huge thing that I had to consider. So we had someone from Germany, and she couldn't record because it was like 6 hours ahead of EST, which is my time zone. So she couldn't record with our Australian actress, who was 12 hours ahead, and we kind of had to organize, like, okay, so this group will read on this day, and this group will read on this day. And it made things a little more complicated, but it was just something that I would have never imagined that I would have to consider when doing something. And this was before, like, the pandemic, that we knew for sure that would be an issue.
So if I or any of the listeners wanted to get in contact with you, how would they do so?
Well, I could just call my cell phone. No, I'm kidding. So I have an Instagram, Y Hedgehogs Fly. That's the letter Y, Hedgehogs Fly. I'm also on Twitter at Flying Hedgeman. I kind of mix those two around, like to be creative with it. And those are my two social media that I use the most. And I say the most because Twitter, I barely use at all, and I only use Instagram. But by comparison, those are the two that I use.
So tell me, why is it that you do use the Why Hedgehogs Fly? Why do hedgehogs fly? You have to tell me.
It's actually a pretty sad story. Well,
do you want to go into it?
Okay, like if it's too dark, then you can cut it out.
I like dark. I just don't like dirt. Like I have to.
No, it's not like horrifying or anything. But well, it's a little horrifying. But anyway, so I had this hedgehog for. Starting it out like that is already like the worst thing I could do.
We had a catapult.
And I threw him in the air for a second. No, but so I had this hedgehog. I named him Sonic. Very creative, yes, I know. And I can't remember what it was, but my dad ended up cleaning the cage, which this hedgehog cage, we had like, it's pretty much a hamster cage. We had a bunch of the wood shavings in the bottom, and then he had a little house inside the cage that he could sleep in. So my dad was cleaning the cage, and he sprayed like a bunch of Lysol in it. And yeah, and I don't think he realized that he forgot to wash it off. And so so I am why hedgehogs fly, and the fly is like flying to little hedgehog heaven. So that's why hedgehogs fly. That's where that comes from.
God.
So I keep that as a reminder of what I lost that day.
And here we have actors just calling you like Hedgie, and they don't understand. Like,
Hedge is a popular nickname for me.
Yeah, that makes sense. Angelo, thank you so much for joining us today, and definitely don't forget to listen to Captain Fearless when it comes out on January 25th of this year. Angelo, thank you.
Thank you very much for having me, John. It was a lot of fun.
Before we totally sign off, there is still the free giveaway for Mercury Theater Podcast stainless steel water bottle going on right now. Just email me at john@mercurytheaterpodcast.com with your name. Again, email your name to me at john@mercurytheaterpodcast.com. That's theater spelled the right way, R-E. Or subscribe to the newsletter on the website for a chance to win said water bottle. Links to follow Angelo, Cruz, and myself are in the show notes. Oh, and if you like what we at Mercury Theater Podcast are offering, please give us a 5-star review wherever you can so other people can hear this too. Keep an ear out for Captain Fearless, which publishes on January 25th. Until then, I'm John Badger.